Oh, better than
Yeah.
both. Nice.
What is going on, everybody? I am so excited for this. So, Ege, right? That's how you pronounce
Yes,
it? Ege,
man, perfect pronunciation.
beautiful. The charming man. So, this is fantastic. I am so excited for this. He
Hmm.
had reached out to me after I had done something with James Tusk, and this guy knows a lot of shit. And I was like, you know what? I gotta have him on here. We gotta talk about things. So, Ege, go ahead and you know put yourself out there. Who are you? Give yourself a little bit of an introduction.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me on, man. My name is Ege, and just to give a quick intro, basically, in the past, I used to be the guy. I'm sure a lot of us were. I used to be the guy who never got the girl. So, growing up in high school, I was actually quite overweight, and I was around 225 pounds playing video games. I don't know if you played League of Legends, man, but I was addicted to that game, playing 8, 10 hours a day. And I was in this place where I was just socially isolated. So throughout college, I worked on that and I was able to really build that skill of talking to people. I ended up losing weight. And then what I found was I could be that social person, but I was always friend zoned when it came to talking to women. I was like, what's going wrong? And that's when actually I started working with James. First, I was a student. That's how we got in touch. And then after I worked with him, I just stayed consistent, approaching women throughout the day, building my own skills, and ended up becoming a coach specifically for guys who are more on the logical engineering side because I used to be an engineer before I got into coaching. So that's the quick background on me.
It's beautiful. Yeah, no, I just was sharing the link out again. Um, that's a lot of how I grew up. I grew up
Yeah.
the nerd. The guy who is just always stayed inside and played video games on the weekends. Like my ideal Friday night, like even throughout high school, my
Mhm.
ideal Friday night, Saturday night was sitting inside playing Halo. It
Oh
wasn't.
man, I love Halo. It's a good game.
Oh, dude, it's phenomenal. And I just, I don't know. I always felt like something was lacking. And actually, this is a
Mhm.
good story. So
Mhm.
back when I was a freshman in high school, so I guess I was 14 years old, and um, I had just started talking to this girl, and she didn't
Mhm.
go to my school. Like I actually went to an all guys school, so I'm transitioning to an all guys school. She's going to the public high school, but we're like vibing online, and this was
Mhm.
all through the Facebook. This is when Facebook had a few years after it just came out, um, and we were just chatting on there, and things started developing, and she had invited me to one of the football games, and so I had my parents. Both my parents were in the car because they were going to go to dinner afterwards, and they drove me down there. And they drove me down there, dropped me off. It was raining a bit, and I walk in, pay for the ticket, everything. Turns out that she's at the very end of the entire bleachers, at the very top corner. And so I walk
Mhm.
all the way across. And once I finally get there, I'm like, where the hell? And I see her.
Mhm.
She's making out with another guy. And
Oh man.
I'm standing there in the rain thinking, what the hell did I do wrong? And I just
Yeah.
called my parents back on my flip phone. I know a lot of people do not know what that is, but I called my parents back on the flip phone, and they came and picked me up. And man, it really struck me like what the hell? Like because I know my inner value. I mean, maybe
Mhm.
I didn't know then, but oh my god, like what am I doing? And
Yeah.
it comes back to that technical mindset of like if you're like the gamer and then you go out into the real world, you know in these games that you play,
Mhm.
they're ruthless. So is the real world.
Yeah.
In this real world, are you actually equipped to take care of what you need to? Or are you just expecting it to be easier? Like, think about, at least with Halo for me, playing it on
Hmm.
Legendary or completing it on Legendary by yourself. That's hard. That's very difficult.
Yeah.
Now, why do we put the time and effort into doing that in a video game, and we don't put the time and effort in that in the real world, trying to figure out this dating?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. And just looking back at my mentality around that time, and I don't know how much you follow Jordan Peterson as well, but this is something he touches on where, in a sense, video games allow you to go through that hero's journey without getting out of your house. So I know for me, actually, when I was playing League of Legends, I was very good. Like I would play ranked games and I would go hard and I would play to win. Like that's actually helped me once I transitioned into being more social, had that mindset of consistency. But within that video game, at that point, it made me feel like a man. But the sad truth, which I'm sure you might have felt as well, is like outside of the video game, you know your life is not going the way you want. And slowly that just chips away at your self esteem.
Right. And one thing that I love, I had Richard Cooper on at one point doing stuff on Instagram, and he has that series of playing to win, and
Mhm.
playing to win or playing not to lose. Where do you want to be? And you know, when we talk about video games and our experiences growing up, it's playing to
Mhm.
win. We want to win. We want to be the best. We want to be the best out of our friends. But a lot of times when it comes to the social dynamics that we have, and especially with women, it
Mhm.
is playing not to lose. And it's like, why can't we adapt that mindset into the playing to win? Like, don't you want to win? Don't you want to do the work? It's the same thing. Like, I'm sure you've seen it plenty of times with approaching, where,
Mhm.
um, I'm sure yourself, and you've seen a lot of clients where they go out there and it's like, go approach that girl. You think she's hot? Go do it. And then they go to do it, but they can't, and they freeze halfway through because they're so
Yeah.
worried about what's going to happen next.
Yeah. 100%, man. And another thing guys do as well, which is something that I work on with guys, the first thing they come in if we're working in person is like they don't own the approach. Like when they see the girl, maybe you've had this experience as well. They'll walk towards the girl and then they'll like act like they looked back and then coincidentally they saw the girl, they didn't plan this happening. And because they don't own it, the girl knows it. The girl knows you're fucking hiding. And the girl's like, what the fuck? Just own it. And then the crazy thing that happens is now they're training themselves to get those bad negative reactions because they're not owning it. And it makes them own it even less. So they're like, oh, this doesn't work. Whereas the first thing you need to do is like, you should be okay when you approach a girl. If you get blown out, people might look at you. Whereas a lot of engineer minded people who are more on the logical side, they want to mitigate risk. But if you play, as you said, not to lose to mitigate that risk, you're not going to be able to win at all because you're always playing scared.
It's very true. And I'm gonna tell you something funny as well. My
Yeah.
favorite pickup line, and I've
Mhm.
done this a lot, and I have so we went down within my group, like my mastermind community, we went down to Miami back in April, and that was the first time that they saw this. I will walk up
Mhm.
to a girl, and my opener will be, I have diarrhea. And then and then it just goes from there.
Hey
And
man,
the
it's an emergency.
and you own it, because that's the thing, pulling logic out of relationships. If you're
Yeah.
trying to approach a girl, you're trying to be like methodical on how you're doing it. It's
Mhm.
all about the experience, the journey, what they're experiencing with you. So saying something like that is a sharp spike in emotions, or I
Yeah.
mean, a down spike potentially. But it's funny, and if you own it and continue on with it, it's like, oh no, I'm just kidding, and then you just like go forward. And
Yeah.
that's the thing that everybody is so like worried about, and that's why with a lot of clients, I get a lot of engineers and stuff too, and I get a lot of
Mhm.
older clients. I think, I mean, what's your age range? You typically get younger guys, or
Yeah, I've had students from all the way from 20 to a guy who's 53, but generally the average range is like 26, 27, around that time.
nice. Yeah, my average is around I would say 40, 40, 41. But still,
Nice.
it's it's coming in with a matter of fact ridiculousness and owning it. And
Hmm.
you know what? If I get blown out, I had fun saying that because it is so
Yeah.
ridiculous. And it's just like,
Yeah.
isn't that what it's all about? It's called game because it's supposed to be fun.
Exactly, man. And I think the biggest issue with people approaching this with logic is they try to find the solution in like, oh, I say this, and then I do this, and then I do that, and then I do this, and it gives me this result. And this keeps people stuck in their head all the time because when you're talking to the girl, you're thinking about what's the next step I need to take so the girl responds to my emotional spike, and then I do this, and then I do that. But as you said, if you say what you want to say, but you have a fun, playful vibe, it doesn't matter what you say. And when you can really portray that, like with what you say, with how you like to open conversations and start them, it's like you can really say anything. And then people look at that, they're like, how does this work? And their brain just gives an error. They're like, oh, I don't understand. But when you see it firsthand, you see how powerful that is, having that playful energy instead of focusing on the exact thing to say.
Right. And everybody looks for a blueprint, and I hate the blueprints. And I always tell my clients, like,
Yeah.
we're not doing blueprints. Like, I'm not giving you a step by step because it needs to be you. I can give you things through each step of the process, but that's not an organic flow for you to find the type of person that
Yeah.
you're going to get along with.
Yeah. I agree. And I think, especially with guys who are more logical and on the engineering side as well, the reason people look for a blueprint is they want to avoid risk. They want to have predictability. Because if you're an engineer, you do software engineers, or you're a mathematician, you do accounting, you're so used to like putting in a formula and you put in the same formula and it gives you the same result. And if you're struggling with being social, naturally your mind is going to be like, there should be a formula to this. And then you look for the blueprint. And some people sell you the blueprint thinking that, oh, this is my solution. So you keep following it. But then what happens, and this happened to me when I was first starting out, was I was saying things and I was like, this just isn't me. Like it doesn't feel congruent. And now the issue becomes, even if you're successful attracting the girl, she's not really attracted to you. She's attracted to this like fake version of you that you've created. And even when you attract that girl, she's not going to stick around because it wasn't you in the first place.
Yeah, and one of the things too that I've found with a lot of the very logical, technical clients that I've had, they they tend to hide away some of their passions. So
Yeah.
somebody that I worked with, they have a lot of album covers in their bedroom,
Hmm.
and they have their bedroom closed every time they bring a girl over. And it's like,
Wow.
the first thing you should do, I mean, one, to make sure that the girl feels comfortable and has at least seen the room first. Hey, like check out all the album covers I have, and then you
Hmm.
can show her your passion. Like, why are you hiding that? Like, it's like the
Yeah.
last type of thing. It's like, it's almost like you're hiding all the coolest parts about yourself and who you truly are away in the bedroom until she sleeps with you. And is that really how you want to handle it? And personally, I don't think so.
Yeah, man, I don't think so either. And that being said as well, it builds even more anxiety getting the girl back to your place. Now you've stacked the odds against yourself. It's like as if
Exactly.
there wasn't enough problems. Now you're like, fuck, what if she sees the album covers and she doesn't like me anymore? And you're like, ah, shit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what if she
I
likes
totally
WoW
feel
and she doesn't like some of the other stuff?
it. That's funny, man. I was actually just, I think one of the things that you touched on that's very important is I was talking to a guy right before this call, and I asked him, like, dude, what are you actually looking for in a girl? And one of the things he said was, oh, I want a girl who actually sleeps early because I like to wake up early. I'm a guy who likes a routine. I don't want someone who stays up late. And what I found was I was like, dude, I actually look for the same thing. And when a girl tells me that, I'm like, fuck, that's so sexy. And most guys would be like, oh, I'm not owning this, whatever, you sleep early. But the more you own your preferences in terms of who you are and what you like, the more you actually attract that people. And I think that's also important to mention as well.
It's incredibly important, dude. I think this is so ridiculous because I think he's
Mhm.
ridiculous because I'm going to bed at times when he's getting up. But one of my good friends, and somebody I've helped in this space, he gets up at 4:30 in the morning, and now
Oh man.
he told his girl like, I would love a good morning text. This girl has an alarm for 4:30 in the morning to get up and text him, "Hey, good morning,"
Damn, bro.
and then go back to bed.
Yeah, you should have him on for some advanced relationship dynamics. How to get your girl to wake up at 4:30 a.m. so you get that morning text. Very niche subject, but I'm sure people would be interested.
Absolutely, but it's like ask for what you want. Like you think that the stuff that you do is weird, and one of the reasons why I really resonate with this and the fact that you work with logical men.
Hmm.
So the girl that I'm seeing now, we've been seeing each other a little over a year, and
Hmm.
on our first date, we went out. Now I'm against this. I'm more about the at home dates, but I wanted to have I wanted to have dinner, so we went for it.
Yeah.
But when we were talking, I had shared with her that I have played this Korean video game called Summoner's War, and I've been playing that for I think it's 7 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, so 7 years I've been playing this game. Yeah, since 2014. And I played it competitively. I've been in the top of the ranks. I've been in the top of the guilds, and now I just kind of play it more casually. But it's still like it's a strong passion of mine. And
Hmm.
at one point, I was sharing this with her, and I was telling her about like how high I've been in the rankings and just all this other stuff. And then after we had slept together, I asked her like, "What was the moment that you wanted to sleep with me?"
Hmm.
And I shit you not, she said how passionate you talked about that video game and you were not afraid about how I was going to feel about it.
Yeah, man. That's awesome.
I think it's just such a simple lesson, and people back down because like when you start to express yourself, you're going to have others like it's either their insecurities or they actually do not agree with you. That
Hmm.
happens. They express that and then you back down. But what if
Hmm.
instead of backing down, double down? You'd be
I
amazed
like
what
that.
can happen.
Yeah. And I think nowadays, to add on to what you said, it's so rare to meet a guy or even a girl who's unapologetic, who can express their personality, that naturally you stand out. Like, even if you don't want to, if you're just honest, you own your shit, then you stand out. And one of the things that one of my other mentors mentioned a while back that really stuck with me is approaching women or talking to people. It's not about like trying to impress someone, it's about attracting your tribe. And you need to assume that your tribe is already there. Because a lot of like when I first got into this, right, I grew up as an overweight kid. If you grew up as an overweight kid, no one gives a fuck. Like no one looks at you, no one has a crush on you, no one even makes eye contact with you. Maybe they look at you and they feel a bit sad. And I changed that when I was 17. But for a while, for the next couple of years, my brain still saw me as the overweight kid. So although from the outside I was more in shape, I was looking good, in my mind, if a girl looks at me, it was like, maybe she thinks I'm overweight. And when I came from that place and when I first started approaching women and talking to women, my goal was always like, let me win this girl over. And that's why a lot of us start with this stuff. We want these strategies so we can win the girl over. But over time, when you flip the mindset to like, let me just assume the people I want are there, and I'm going to be so unapologetic about who I am that by the end of a 5 minute conversation, they'll either love me or they'll hate me, but at least it'll be time efficient. Then your reality changes a lot, I think.
No, absolutely. I cannot agree with that more. I mean, I even just think about how we met. Like, you would just reach
Yeah.
out to me randomly, and it was like, yeah, I can sense good energy. And then we talked, and it was like, absolutely, we're doing this. And
Yeah,
that's
man,
just it's
exactly.
fantastic. It's like you don't know unless you do. And oh my God. Now I'm thinking about one of my fraternity brothers back in the day because he had the mindset of like, oh no, my standards are just too high. Oh yeah,
Oh, man.
there are not there are not women knocking at your door. So explain to me that. And he never
Man, I think a guy saying my standards are high, if he's not consistently meeting women, is like the shittiest way to avoid problems. It's like, dude, yeah, your standards are high, but you're at home eating Cheetos and watching Netflix. So be a bit realistic. Fucking like a Victoria's Secret model is not going to come knock on your door and be like, I have such a crush on guys who live in their mom's basements. Finally.
Finally I found my one.
Yeah.
But you know what? I want to hone in on what you had said. And it's like how do you build like when you switch that mindset
Mm-hmm.
of like chasing or like expecting more like whatever
Mm-hmm.
to like people accept like they're gonna accept me,
Mm-hmm.
how do you build that, I guess, like inner strength, inner confidence to be able to do that? Because I feel like that's a
Mm-hmm.
very hard long journey that people go through, and I
Mm-hmm.
think it's something that's not focused on enough because like once you get there, everything becomes so simple. So like
Mm-hmm.
what do you think it is that's so difficult for people to get there? And what advice would you give for somebody who's trying to figure that out?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. With anything in terms of learning, I think there are three levels of actually learning something. The first level is like you intellectually understand, you're like, this makes sense. So a lot of guys who haven't had the first-hand experience, they might read like an article who's like, oh, you have value. You have value to offer to the world. You make six figures and you have a nice car. That means you're at the top 1% of dudes. Congrats. And someone can read that and say, okay, I have value to offer. And that's like logical understanding. I think the second level of understanding that's a bit deeper is emotional understanding. And that's where real life experience comes in. So the logical understanding gets tied in with a story that you've experienced yourself. One of the best stories that I've experienced, and this was quite hilarious, was I went to Colombia with one of actually the coaches that Tusk had, not with James, but one of his other coaches, because this guy knew Colombia like the back of his hand. And at that time, I was still being coached. Like I was in college, I was clueless. I still wore clothes that my mom picked. It was bad, man. Like you would not look at me and think, yeah, I'm sure this guy knows what he's doing.
He knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, that was before I was a coach. But That being said, one thing I did have going for myself is I had very good intentions, and I was always positive about approaching women, excited. And I remember I met this girl who I almost didn't approach. I was at the airport, 4 hours of sleep, and I was like, "Ah, I just don't have the energy. I'll get the next one." But then, as she was walking out of the airport, I walked up to her, and my brain was just like, fuck, if you don't do it again, you'll never see her. So I walked up to her. I said something like the conversation was straight up bad. It was stupid, but I just owned it. I was like, blah, blah, blah. I got her number. And then we went out the next day. And then, have you ever been to Cartagena by any chance in Colombia?
I have not actually.
Man, you have to go. So in Cartagena, you can go on an island trip for a day for like $30 per person. It's fucking amazing. Best date of your life. Especially if you know where to sneak into, then you might have
Dude,
a
that's
few
like
more
literally the
adventures.
price of a ticket in the U.S. or a ticket
I know.
to like the movie theater in the U.S. It's like ridiculous.
It's
Or
crazy, man. Yeah, currency difference, saving the world.
yeah,
But we had that date, and I remember like this girl at the time, by far the most attractive, the sweetest, the most smart girl I've been with. And it was such an extent that the dudes who worked in the island thought I was paying for a prostitute because I was a foreigner who had like okay sense of style and he didn't look like he was getting laid. So that experience made me realize, like, oh shit, I'm genuine and I do have internal value. And it's about attracting the right people. It's not about I have to impress this girl. So that's more the emotional level of understanding. And then the third level, I think, is where you get to when you're a coach and you do this for years, where it's like an integral level of understanding that just becomes who you are. Because you and I will probably talk to so many girls that at this point the idea that like you need to impress a girl doesn't even cross your mind. You're like, what? That makes no sense. And it's not until a client is like, oh, I just feel like I need to impress this girl when I talk to her. You're like, people still think that way. So
it
that's
blows
how
my
it
mind.
does.
It goes back to what I was saying like originally. My stupid goofball line. Like I literally will walk up to women and say, "I have diarrhea," and I have gotten laid off of that 3 times now. So,
Dude, to be fair, the facial expression's perfect. Like if I looked at you, I'd be like, it's his last day, time to make it count. Let's make it happen.
but it's like the emotion and then the pullback. It's like, no,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. What's your name?
Man,
And
you nailed it.
people have seen this in action. So it's like they see it in action and they're like, all right, I think you know what you're talking about. And it's like, yeah, just have fun. Everybody wants to have fun. If you could
Yeah.
have fun every single day in this world, in this life that you have, would you?
Mhm. Yeah, 100%.
So then have fun with it. It's not like
Yeah.
come on and bring that fun and that personality and bring this woman on her journey. You don't want to sit down at a date and be like, "Hi, I'm
Hi,
Alex.
baby.
What do you do?" "Oh, that's great. How old are you?" That's awesome. How long have you been doing that?" "That's great. What's your family like?" Like it's just not fun. You want to take them
Yeah.
on a journey. Because life is a journey. And if
Mhm.
your life is a journey and you fully believe that inside, that's pulling the logic out of relationships. Take this woman
Yeah.
on the journey that you're on.
Yeah. It's like an experience when you go on a date. It's not just like let us just exchange these facts. And the cool thing is like the more on point you are with this, the less you will need the external stuff, like go to a fancy place, fucking pick her up like 30 minutes away. If you can provide an emotional experience, just telling stories, enjoying life. Like I remember this one time I was in Cartagena again, different year. But I remember like I met these like five girls. Okay, funny story. I was with this guy. I was with these two guys who were my friends from a business mastermind. And these two guys are like hardcore Christian, super religious. And I'm the one who's like the dating coach, just running around talking to girls. But we connect in a business and just like a friendly sense. So we were in Colombia, and I remember I asked my friend, like, hey man, have you ever danced reggaeton before? And if you know reggaeton, it's like full on
Is,
foreplay,
is that a
grinding.
pasta? Rigatoni?
No, it's like in Colombia they dance reggaeton. And basically it's funny, when I went to Cali, it was the first time I heard the name. I was like, what is that? And this guy pointed at this club where everyone was making out. He
Mhm.
was like, this is reggaeton. And I was like, in my country we call that foreplay. And then he was like, no, 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 this is reggaeton. So I have these two religious guys with me, and I asked them, like, hey man, have you ever danced reggaeton? And they think it's like a classy dance, cultural Colombian dance, right? They have no idea. So I like tap this girl on the shoulder. It's a group of 5 girls, apparently in a bachelorette party. I'm like, hey, can you teach my friend how to dance reggaeton? And then she's like, well, I'm about to get married, but sure, my friends can. So this group just comes over to our table, and both of my religious friends are just mind blown as these girls are like dancing reggaeton with them. And they're like, okay, no more. We will have sinned. No more.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, it was crazy, man.
That's
But
awesome.
the point of this story is I ended up, going basically, I ended up connecting really well with one of the girls, and
Mhm.
we went out of the bar as my friends and her friends were in the bar. But when we were out, dude, the street was flooding. I've never seen Cartagena like this. And we're talking about creating that emotional experience. I was thinking like, dude, and there's a part of mind that was like, ah, man, it's gonna be hard to make work. But then there's another part who was like, dude, just fucking enjoy it. So I'm like 6 foot, which is not short, but my knees were covered in water. Like up to my knee, there was water. And this girl is like up to nearly her stomach, there was just water. And as this was happening, I was like, huh, how can I make this work? I realized her Airbnb was closed. But in that moment, I was just like, hey, we're at the end of the world. We made it to day 10. The wind is getting stronger. The rain is getting stronger. I don't know if we'll make it today. So I just acted like a news reporter. And we started like jumping back and forth about narrating this fake story that didn't exist. And I think that's why it's so important to create these experiences for women and have that skill, because you can jump into the worst situation on surface and still make that work. And it's so much fun for you and the girl as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think we get lost so much on trying to make it fun for the woman, making it like about the woman. Have fun with it
Yeah.
yourself too. Like I
Yeah.
loved hearing that story. Like that was awesome. I love that because you painted a very clear visual for me, and I was like, that would be a great thing to say, and how to handle a situation like that. And in that moment, in that heated moment, it's even better for them. So I think
Yeah.
that's something that we forget. It's like it's not a formula. It's not A plus B equals sex. It's
What? Really? Shit.
sorry,
I've been teaching the wrong wing for years.
but it's pulling all those things in together, and like that's why the very first question that I ask, and I am proud of this to be honest. I turn down more clients than I accept, and it's because when we talk, the very first question I ask them, "What do you want?" And if they can't answer that question to me, and they can't answer it confidently, I don't want to work with them. Because
Mm,
what am I supposed to do? You can't steer a ship without a destination.
yeah, I think
And
that's a very good approach, man.
right, and it's quite honestly, I didn't watch it wasn't until 2015, I think, that I first watched Hitch, which I love that movie. It's fantastic. I
It's so
love
cool.
I love the scene where he's with the businessman and they're sitting
Oh
at
yeah.
a dinner, and it's, the guy's like talking, and he's kind of talking vaguely, and then it's finally like, yeah, I want to cheat on my wife, and it's like, yo, no, and
Yeah.
he cuts the guy off, and that's how I think it should be handled. Like, what do you want? What are you trying to get at? And it's like, are you trying to use the tools for something bad? Or like,
Mm,
if you came to me and you said, "Hey, I want to get laid. I want to be a player," I can help you do that. But if you weren't clear with me from the start, that's kind of like the setting boundaries type of stuff as well. And I think
yeah.
that logical guys as well. When you're looking at engineers and scientists, and a lot of people that do that type of stuff, they also have that issue of, they think that if I do this, then bad will happen. Well, A
Yeah.
plus B doesn't equal D. It can be
Mm,
different. And sometimes people respect the fact that you said B, and then it'll bring you to C. And it's just, that's one thing that I think tricks people up a lot as well. Just, being honest with yourself.
yeah. I agree, man. If there is not clear alignment in terms of where someone needs to go, then it's hard to really help them. And I'm sure you've recognized this over time as well. If you start coaching this for a while, you get a feel for people. And sometimes, like, you can hop on a call with someone and you can be like, dude, if I taught this guy what I knew, I don't know if he would use it the right way. And you need to have the ethics to be like, dude, sorry, I can't help you. And in the end, to me, this is all about helping the guys who I used to be. I was still like the kind, caring person who genuinely tried to like help people, but I didn't know how to combine that with like leadership and taking charge and being dominant. So I was in the friend zone. And I think a lot of guys, come from this kind, caring side, and maybe they've been pushed around a bit. And then they start completely negating that and go to the opposite end of like, I'm going to sleep with as many girls as I can. I'm going to be a fucking bad boy. They get a face tattoo, they get like 4 piercings. And now they're like walking into the club with their chest puffed and they're like, hey, baby, what's up? And now you lose that part of you who actually has genuine care for people. And what I found is when you combine that care with high levels of leadership and owning who you are, is when you actually have tons of results because people can see, again, you're trying to attract your tribe and you have their best interests at heart as well. I think that speaks to a level where any technique or strategy can never really get to.
I completely agree with you, and it's wild. Like, I posted a reel, maybe 2 weeks ago now, but I put something out there, and it was like, be yourself. And I was fresh out the shower, so like right now I look all right. I think I look cute, but I came fresh out the shower with my hair a mess, and I was talking about being yourself and why that's so important. Because when you are yourself and you own yourself, at the end of the day, the women that you are looking for see that, appreciate it, are attracted to it, and come into your life. And I don't understand
Yeah.
why that's so difficult for people to grasp. Obviously, that doesn't mean if I sit at a computer and just, code all day that a hot babe is going to walk in the door. But but you know what I mean. It's like owning yourself, putting yourself out there, and by putting yourself out there, you're doing it with force and an actual vigor. And I think that
Yeah.
gets lost a lot.
Yeah. And I think to touch on what you said as well, a lot of guys think women are attracted to logic. logical things. Oh, you're tall, you're fucking like make good income, and you're high status, and all of these things play a part. But there's so much information that uses like a research study with 20 girls that's like, oh, woman only wants men who are over 6 foot tall. And it's like, no, that's not true. And to add on to what you said as well, is what happens is like first emotionally, the girl buys into you with the charisma you have, with the way you tell stories, with the way you interact with her, with the way you take care of her. And then she might tell you, like, oh, I like you because you're an entrepreneur and you do cool things. But the reason she was attracted to you in the first place was not really that. So they get attracted emotionally, and then logically they tell themselves, and maybe even to you, a story of why they like you. And a lot of guys mix that up, where they try to force attraction by being logical and showing off their career and their lifestyle, taking the girl to an expensive dinner, which is a surefire way to fail.
And all right, so let's take this a layer deeper, and without giving all my secrets, because I have talked about some of this. So I'll tell you right now, I teach my clients, and what I do myself, every first date, direct to home. That's it. What do you think about that?
I think it's a good approach. What do you do when you get objections to that?
So I don't.
All right.
I'm not that attractive, but I don't, because what I do is what I train people to do and I train them on is you need to think the emotional roller coaster, right? Pulling the logic out of it. So, logically, let's save money. Let's just have dinner here. She's not going to say yes. So how do you pull the logic out of that and add emotion to it? Well, you go ahead and have a FaceTime call where you spend 20 minutes or so talking to her, expressing her personality, maybe making funny faces, figuring out how to connect with her. And then at the end of the whole thing, it's like, all right, so what time are you coming over tomorrow?
Nice.
Boom.
That's
Boom,
a solid
done.
approach.
Yeah, because it's taking the emotional roller coaster, and you're saving time for yourself instead of just the texting back and forth. It's so simple. It's so simple with all this, and I just pulling the logic out of the whole thing, because it's just you need to. Men are logical, women are emotional. Get that through our thick heads. That's just how it works. So how do you bridge that gap? And for me, and for a lot of the clients that I work with, that's a very easy way to do so.
Yeah, that's a good approach. And I guess the question to ask, I'm curious about this, is have you had situations as well where you connected with a girl, but she's like, you know what, I'd rather meet in a public place, and you just meet her for a coffee? Because sometimes I find for myself as well, doing the same date gets boring after a while. And especially like once you get the experience and you can do it, things are not as appealing anymore because you can do it. At first, there's the excitement of like, oh my God, can I actually get this girl from FaceTime back to my place? And then you're like, that did work. But do you find yourself sometimes wanting to actually meet a girl that you really connect with just because you want to go on a date, whether that's coffee or drinks?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's funny. It's funny that you say that, getting bored, because I was finding I thought I had an ED because I just couldn't get hard anymore because it became too easy. But
dude, I feel you there. When I came back from Colombia, okay, so funny stories back and forth. I came back from Colombia, right? And if you haven't been to Colombia, like girls are super feminine. When you bring them back, when you're around them, you're just like, fuck. The way they behave is just so amazing. And of course, there's also the side where they just get pissed off and they might try to kill you. But if you love a rose, you have to deal with the thorns, right? So I come back from Colombia and I'm in the US and I go on this date and I get this girl back and I just like nothing, nothing gets hard. And I'm like, what the fuck? Fucking start working, dude, game time. And then, and the girl was like attractive as well, at least from like a surface level. And then like the girl left, she was not happy. And I was like, fuck, what the fuck's going on? And then I call one of my mentors. I was like, dude, this is so weird. I spent all this time in Colombia. I had no problem. Now I came back and I think my dick stopped working. And he's like, dude, maybe the girl just wasn't that feminine. And then I was like, huh, maybe that makes a lot of sense. So what I realized, as you said, sometimes is like, I think a lot of guys take this as a problem about themselves, but sometimes your body sends you signals, man. Like it's not just about impressing the girl, it's also about being in tune with what you value at every part of the way.
Right. No, absolutely. And that's something that's interesting. The girl that I've been seeing long term right now. We're just getting.
Can you hear me?
I don't think it's fully disconnected.
You can't hear me still?
Yeah, I'm getting static for some reason. Maybe just throw them back in. There's just the weird lag. What's going on?
And solves everything. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. I'm still getting the feedback.
Bring an echo on you.
How about you hop back in real quick?
Yeah, but what if I click the command? Go.
Okay, cool. So he'll be right back here. One of the things with that, mixing it up, because seriously, like thinking like ED, like what the hell's wrong with me? Like I'm young, this shouldn't be happening. I found that mixing it up, and the girl that I've been seeing for a little over a year now, our first date and a lot of the dates that we've gone on aren't just straight to home. Straight to home is more like if you're just like trying to get laid, but if you actually like this person, all right, then do it a little bit differently. And that's what I was finding is when you do something that's more interesting on one of these dates, it completely changes the dynamic.
Yeah.
There we go.
Is the audio all good now?
Here again, there was, for whatever reason, it went out of sync. Your audio and visual was separate, and that's why I asked you to pull them out, and then you put them back in, and then everything just went haywire. But we're good.
All right, no, we're good. That's good.
Good stuff. Yeah, I was just sharing because like that was one of the things that I experienced is that when you go on a date, something interesting, something memorable, it can completely change the dynamic. And it's also, it comes down to what do you want to do? Like if that first date, you just want to get laid, all right, do direct to home. But otherwise, like if you, and this is a funny thing, actually, like I asked my mentors about this. I was on, it was going to be the third date with a girl. Like we had already slept together, whatever. But I really wanted to go to the shore for the weekend. So it's like, is this like a silly simp move to ask her to come with me? And it's like, no, because it's what you want to do. Take her along for the journey that you want to take her on. Like, what journey are you on? Do you want her there or not? And you need to ask yourself that question. And that's where the logic comes in, because it's like, oh, Sam, paying for a vacation, Sam, how dare you? Like, no, what do you want to do? Do you have the money to do it? And is this what you want to do? And if that's the case, then do it. You know, it's really simple. And for whatever reason, we try and overcomplicate it with logic and rules and black and white when the world and people are shades of gray.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people get caught up within those rules and then end up doing things they don't even want to do.
Right.
Yeah, it's like a lot of the people who, I mean, I have some rules that I go by. Actually, funny story about what you said about changing things up on the first date is I met this girl once, and basically she wanted to change up the venue that we were meeting. And I was like, oh, I've been meaning to go to that place. Why not? Generally, my rule is like, don't let the girl change the venue. You don't know how expensive it's going to be or how it's going to affect you. But it was still close to my place. It was a place I've been wanting to go. So I was like, okay, that's fine. And at that point, like I've been taking girls to the same coffee shop for the past like 2 months. And initially I had scheduled the date there. So then, anyways, we changed this venue. We have an amazing time. I started dating her over a long period of time. And she actually ends up knowing what I do for work. She comes into one of our coaching calls. And then one of my guys, who were one of the clients, asks, is there anything that you don't like within online dating? And this girl goes, yeah, I just don't like when guys take me to the same place they take every girl to. And I was like, huh, I tried to do that on my first date, but then she changed the place. I was like, well, I guess it worked out in the end. But I think, yeah, just being too attached to any idea just makes you a very one-dimensional person. And a lot of building these skills also means you have to be adaptable to different things that come your way.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I have to say that, the adaptability that you have is something that is so lost here. Now, I don't know if you watch Fresh and Fit. Like, I know those guys and good people. I know they're doing a certain type of show, but it's it's frustrating because those in their audience don't understand that it's kind of like that Howard Stern style show, so they don't see the angle that's coming through, and so they take every single thing that they say as law, and it's like, come on, guys, like it's like cringe hearing them say that, and that's the same thing that I was saying, like, taking a girl. It's my third date with this girl, and I took her on a vacation. Anybody in space would be like, yo, what the hell is wrong with you? You have no idea what you're talking about. And it's the same type of thing, like, recognizing that every situation is different depending on the situation itself. And I think that gets lost in translation a lot. And I think that's great for you to identify that as well, to, not. It's also a great opportunity, though, to escalate from that. Every girl, you're only the second girl I've ever been on a date with.
Yeah, man, it's quite funny how that works. Actually, this is something that I want to hear your thoughts about. So now that you've been doing this for a while, do you ever tell girls what you do, or when that conversation comes up, how do you generally talk about that?
Yeah, no. So I do tech consulting, and I have some of the business connections and boring. I do boring stuff during the day. Yeah, I'm getting the feedback.
Yeah, just mute myself. I don't have wire off when you speak. Maybe that'll help. Sour.
Yeah, it completely breaks. Okay, there we go. All right, I'll speak for a second. And what try and put them, yeah, and try and put them in. We can wrap up in a couple of minutes here, and we'll talk a little bit afterwards. So the question was, sorry, I just got distracted for a moment. Yeah, so I feel like that's like a subtle DHV. So I don't tell girls that I work in tech. I mean, I do, but I also do other things. I do cool and interesting things. This is a cool and interesting thing. So when I meet a girl and she asks like, "Oh, what do you do?" and it's like, "Oh, like I'm either the leader of a men's group. I do dating consulting. I'm a consult for men in business or men that own their own businesses." Because like outside of just doing the strictly dating coaching, I do help people with their credit. I help people balance their finances. I help people in crypto. Like there is like a vast network of different consulting that I do. And I have no problem telling a girl, "Oh yeah, like I do dating consultant." Like why not? Because it's what I'm passionate about and it's how I represent myself to the world. And if you don't say that up front, it's like she's going to find out inevitably. And so it's like, why are you trying to hide this from her? And, just look at the facets of your life. If you, do some tech consulting like I do, and then other stuff. All right, which is sexier? Tech consulting? Dating coaching? Tech consulting? Dating coaching? I think dating coaching. So let's go with that one. And so just think about the passions and interests that you have and what would be more attractive to somebody or more, not necessarily more attractive, but more interesting to somebody.
Hear me now?
No, I'm getting the feedback.
With the AirPods on.
Let me see if it's on my side. Yeah, no, I did. I ran into this problem 1,000 times with those headphones. That's why I stopped using them. I don't know where it's coming from.
Yeah.
Try and fix it and come back and let's
Yeah.
right?
What?
All right. So there's some other things that I would love to talk about, but those are going to be some different topics that we have in the future. But so far, this has been a fantastic conversation. I love what Ege brings here to the conversation, and the man has had a lot of experience. So it's absolutely fantastic. And I appreciate everybody for joining so far. Once he joins back in, I'll have him close out. But for myself, I do consulting through the easiest way to get to me is thehudsman.com. And that is, you can do that either by going through just Dave's website or by doing it through my Instagram. I have a link tree there, and that can easily set you up for any type of consulting that you would want to do, whether you're brand new to this whole thing, whether you are coming out of a breakup, whether you're coming out of a divorce. We can absolutely get you set up. I do either one-on-one consultations, also do I call it like my 6-week boot camp, and we'll do like every week. So once a week for 6 weeks, doing a little over 2 hours of really honing in on what you need to get done and give you tasks to make it happen. And then outside of that, just see everything else that's going to come from there. So Ege, do you want to go ahead and close yourself out? I just kind of did my little close out.
Yeah, awesome, man. Does it sound good now?
Coming through clear. Yep.
Cool. Before it dies down and the AirPods give up on me, dude, thank you so much for having me on. This is an awesome conversation. It's been awesome hearing your thoughts as well as sharing ideas. If anyone has watched this live stream and they want to be in touch more on YouTube, my account is called The Charming Man. And then on Facebook, it's Ege Reynolds, just like on the live stream itself. Just find me there, add me on. I put out a lot of content on Facebook about what we do, what type of programs that we have. And then if you want to be a part of the free Facebook group that we have, just again, message me on Facebook. That's probably the best way to get in touch, especially if you're a guy who's an engineer, accountant, more on the logical side, wondering how you can take care of this. So thank you, man.
Absolutely. And I will throw all those links down below in the description. And I appreciate everybody for tuning in. And I hope this is helpful because this was a fantastic conversation. And thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, guys.